Welcome to the squad. He's Icewater, I'm Puma, and the squad is sponsored by Rayon Cognac. Join the movement. Contact us at www.rayoncognac.com. We're going to talk NBA playoffs, also the NFL draft. We may sneak some other things in like boxing. We usually do a boxing show, but I know Ice wants to talk about a big fight coming up next week. But let's start off with the NBA playoffs. Bro, I had a chance to hang out with my buddy David Danku, the African hedonist on the south side of Chicago, and my boy Brian. I call him Bodacious B. And we watched about three games together. And even though, I have a sour kind of taste in my mouth for the NBA, it was good to sit around with friends and kind of watching them watch me complain and suffer through some bad basketball. But I got a chance to watch the end of the Thunder Suns game, also watched the Knicks game, and then I watched maybe halfway through the Timberwolves and Nuggets game. And I have to say, with those three games, the Timberwolves seem like they have Denver on the ropes at this particular point, leading the series 3-1. The Knicks get back in the series, tying it with the Hawks. My complaint with the Knicks is that they're not playing good enough defense, and you're letting people just dance through the lane. I don't. It's playoff basketball. Lay a guy out, and then 3-0, the Thunder against the Suns. And I've heard some people and some of my guys were saying, it's almost like the powers that be want the Thunder to kind of get through this with a sweep so they can get to the next round. But your thoughts on the games yesterday and throughout the week?
Well, I think one of the things we talked about earlier off air, one of the major things that's playing a large part of the way that the games are going is injuries.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of injuries, and I think with that being said, it's affecting the games. And I think the media is kind of turning a certain way that they want us to view things because of these injuries. And then now they're like piling on, like, oh, we always knew this was going to be, for instance. One of the first things I talk about is the Lakers in Houston.
Mhm.
So the Lakers are up 3-0, and LeBron is playing well as can be expected and leading the team. And now, because Houston is struggling a little bit, it's almost as if we knew LeBron was doing this and LeBron is doing a great thing. Not saying he's not at his age at 41 not playing well, but the factor that Kevin Durant is hurt, and you can tell he's hurt by the way they're pushing him around. He's just not himself. He's trying some shots, but he's really physically limited. So he's not the scorer that we expect. He has to be more of a distributor, and he definitely can't play defense because the way we want him to when he's normally playing because of the injuries. So with that being said, to act as if the Lakers are really, because they're up 3-0, they're really destroying Houston. No. Houston is a totally different team when Durant is on. Okay. And I still think that if Durant, even with Luca, if he was together, and then also Reeves, if they were there and Durant was healthy, Houston still can win. So the act as if the Lakers are really hard, they're about to do a sweep and they're playing so incredible, and now they change the odds as to whether or not they can win it all. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Give me a break. So that's one that just kind of it's hard to look at that series. Looking at OKC and Phoenix, though, I'll say this. I think OKC is kind of one of them, those who tell you about them Tom Brady moments. If don't nobody else step up, they're gonna win.
Yeah.
Because when you have SGA can just don't doesn't have to turn on all the time. That team is coming together, and once they're healthy, they can match up with anybody. So I think that's key.
Two things in what you said to respond. KD, if KD wasn't so in his feelings, he could have been very successful with the Golden State Warriors if he'd have stayed because he went a number of different places. I think he went to Phoenix. He went to Brooklyn. He probably went to another team. I can't remember right now. And it never worked out for him. Injuries or not the right chemistry. And to me, it's a commentary, and I'm gonna mention in my last second shot about these new age players who kind of get in their feelings. Now, I'm not saying the old school guys didn't get in their feelings, but these new age players, they get in their feelings and then they make decisions that just aren't good for them. One of the things that I think about is that the Spurs can beat the Trailblazers. They can get by the Trailblazers. I don't know if Wembley's going to be able to come back from that. But remember the going back to the Suns. Remember when they fired their coach after he had taken them to the championship? How did that work out for them? And it's a rhetorical question. How did that work out? Where he had the chemistry, he had, he didn't want Ayton there at the time, and it was, a battle between him and Ayton because Ayton wasn't giving him anything. And so they get rid of a really good coach, and they haven't been right since. They haven't been the team that we saw that was in the finals a few years ago. So it's like, people getting in their feelings and making these emotional decisions, it doesn't work. It doesn't work out for these teams and these players.
No, I get that. I mean, I think for me, I think Durant's a little different because you could say he stayed at Golden State, but if there's difficulty with certain people on the team and stuff like that too, you make decisions. I mean, one of the most bizarre situations is James Harden. And, I was a big advocate for him for a long time, but that's really one of the biggest things for me because he's never won. At least Durant can say, even though he jumped on the gravy train with Golden State, he won. Actually, won two in a row. So nothing's ever perfect. Some people never get an opportunity. But for instance, like with a James Harden, he's still, no matter what, he's still gonna have that asterisk against his name. It's like, okay, you're really great. You might be considered one of the greatest players of all time, but you can't win, no matter the situation. He's always moving around. So I don't know. I just from that standpoint, and then I look at the Nuggets in Minnesota that you mentioned earlier, the Nuggets just not being healthy and not being able to play. You got to give it up to Minnesota. They're playing real hard. Although I think they're starting to feel a little swagger. I think McDaniels
Definitely.
is over the top, and the way what was going on with the game where they were winning and he shoots the layup and the Joker gets mad and gets in his face and stuff. So granted, like you said before, maybe some people don't see that as whatever, but to me that means the Joker cares. And if you're trying to show him up, and maybe Minnesota does win, but after they win that game, they probably have to play the Spurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if Wemby's back, can you handle that? So now I'm looking at those next matchups, what happens there? And if the Lakers win, they will have to play OKC. And we know what OKC has done to the Lakers all no matter who was healthy. They just dominated them. So we can go move on there. And then the Pistons and Magic,
Jeez.
I'm really surprised. Huh?
I said that last week. Pistons.
Yeah, I mean, and I like the Pistons. I've been liking them all year, but I think one of the things I mentioned earlier was the fact of that the way playing well in the regular season does not guarantee
No,
postseason success.
no.
And I've always said that. If you don't bring it, you can be number one. All it's like playing college football. You can be number one and during the in the rankings, and we get to the playoffs, and if you don't show up, you can get popped. And I think that's what's looking at the 11 of Detroit. The same way now we're seeing Cleveland 2-1 over Toronto. Cleveland should win, but what are they going to do from that standpoint? And you mentioned Hawks and Knicks. And you started this series coming out from the beginning. Most people would have thought it might have been the Knicks in five, right? I mean, most people would be, but the Hawks are like, hey, we don't have anything to lose. And the Celtics and Philly has moments. But the Celtics seem like they still want to get up. So there's some things that just make you go, but right now, if I look at it, I don't, and we don't know what's going to happen with the Spurs. The Spurs still, to me, have to prove they're ready. I still think they're maybe a year away. I think they're young. And I know they beat OKC and during the regular season, everybody got excited. But this is different. This is playoff basketball. So you can beat a team three straight, but what's going to happen when you get to the playoffs? But right now, if I had to call it, I'm looking at the way OKC is playing. I really don't see anybody else that until we unless we see something different, nobody really that can contend with them. Maybe Boston, but I don't know.
I was surprised that, and you rarely hear a commentator criticizing the refs, but Doris Burke went after the refs with how SGA is getting all these calls with the push-offs, and then somebody else would do it and get it's a defensive foul, and she just went after the refs. Like it needs to be consistent across the board. You can't let him get away with it, and then call it on on the defensive player, um, or the offensive player, in other games. And so she's seeing that, and she kind of like called it out, and I'm like, bravo, because no other commentator has been calling it out. He's been getting away with this for 2 years, and with the push off, and it's got to be stopped because it's an unfair advantage. And I'm all about, okay, if a ref misses a call every now and then, okay, that's human nature. But if you constantly let a player kind of get away with a rule, James Harden and SGA, then it doesn't make it fair for the rest of the players and the teams in the NBA. And that's been one of my biggest complaints in the NBA is like make it fair across the board. There shouldn't be preferential treatment for superstar players to get away with stuff that the non-superstar players can't get away with it.
So I agree with you with what you say, but let's keep this 100. There always has been preferential treatment for superstars.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, since we've been watching basketball. Now, in this new day and age, you have, to me, a lot of these players are whining and crying more, which makes it more apparent as to these so-called superstars expect it to happen, right? So I do agree with you there, but I also know that it's been happening for a long time. As you mentioned, most people don't call it out, the reporters like Doris Burke was, but I'll say this, like anything else, and I'm not trying to throw any shade at anybody because I think I respect her as a journalist and she's done some great things. But Doris Burke might want to be a little careful calling out the league and what they're
Yeah, she might
doing
not have a
because
job. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe she's ready to
Hey,
retire, bro. I
hey,
don't blame her. Her counterpart
maybe.
retired, so maybe she's ready.
May, whatever. I'm just saying because you might want to watch contracts. Your contract gonna get renewed. When you calling out, like you said before, was that guy Tim whatever kept saying that they were making changes and calls and doing things in the NBA. The NBA is quick. Commissioners looking like what you say. Asking me why. Tell me this. Why the Van Gundys can't get more jobs, the coaching jobs?
Yeah,
I mean, allegedly, I'm just saying, isn't it long why Mark Jackson can't get a job?
yeah, yeah,
So you can comment, you can commentate, come be a commentator, but if you try to make a next move or you want to keep your job, you gotta be careful when you talk about your employers because that don't go well. You can't sue your boss and expect to come back and work for 40 years. They watch you very closely. What can we do? Oh, he slipped up. He's gone. Be very careful. What I'm saying, but that's just my opinion.
All right, let's go to the NFL draft, and I have to be honest with you. I'm at the point in my life where I am just watching the results from the NFL draft instead of going through the programming that they have that lasts, I think, for 2 or 3 days. And it's probably exciting for the host team. I think it was in Pittsburgh and Three Rivers out there in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh didn't do themselves any favors in the draft, even hosting the draft. But what are the teams that really kind of stood out? So before you answer that, I always felt that Beck was a better quarterback than Mendoza. I always felt that he was going to be a better pro quarterback. I commend Arizona for getting him. And I think they got a real good quarterback. We'll see. Time will tell. And I guess I'm of the age where you got to prove it to me. You got drafted, but I got to see you play on the pro level to kind of get excited about who they drafted. And there's always going to be teams who don't draft well, who don't get what they need. Chicago Bears. You need an offensive line. You still won't do it. You got a new coach, everything, and you still won't get an offensive line. So Caleb will be running around trying to steal somebody's nickname again. You are never the Iceman. George Gervin is the Iceman. I don't care if you get a copyright pad or whatever, you are never going to be the Iceman. George Gervin is the Iceman. I said it. All right. What do you think about the draft from last night?
Uh, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'll say that with the draft. And I'm like you, I didn't really pay attention. I was not going to sit there and watch pick after pick after pick. But I was intrigued by some of the things that took place. And I want to give kudos to when it's where it's due. The Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I said it. Cleveland Browns. Everybody thought they was going to take a quarterback. They did not take a quarterback, or they did take a quarterback down the line, I think second to the last pick. But they actually made some decisions early on that made sense. It's almost as if, wow, we're trying to build some chemistry, and we don't want our star defensive end or defense to guy to leave, and we want to make him happy. So we got to start being smarter. And one of the first things they did, they off the board, they picked Spencer Fano. I think it was at pick six. He's the offensive lineman from Utah. And that makes sense because you all no matter who the quarterback is going to be, you need to have protection. Then they come back and they run off another smart pick. Pick wide receiver. It was KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. They need wide receivers. I think the most one wide receiver caught passes he caught was 27 for them. They had 110 passes total, so they need offense. So they pick up Concepcion, come back in the second round. I think they had pick 39, and they got Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston out of Washington, who's real about 6'5", strong, almost like a wide receiver, tight end type, right? Real strong guy, catches strong. You might remember a guy that had the same type of build. His dad was David Boston. Dad was David Boston. So in that same kind of build. And I was like, wait a minute, they went back to back wide receivers. And then from that point on, they went and they started to select positions that needed to be filled on defense to kind of make them even more stronger, and maybe even also another couple other offensive linemen. So at that point, I was like, man, Cleveland, okay. And then you go into the quarterback room, and believe it or not, and I guess in some of the just the throws and little small practices, they're saying Deshaun Watson looks real good. Looks like
Yeah,
he's in
yeah.
shape,
I've
lost
been
some
hearing that.
pounds. Said his arm is lively and look like who knows, but that's a good thing. And Shador is doing this thing. Gabriel is showing to be Gabriel,
I think it's
but
gonna be great. I think they're gonna
yeah,
learn. Yeah.
yeah, but the point of it is just there's some promise being shown in Cleveland as if they learned from what their mistakes. Other than that, was really surprised by the Dallas Cowboys.
I thought you were sitting in the room with them because they got one of your dudes from the Ohio State University as a safety. So I'm like, Ice must be in the room. He must be on the call with Jerry Jones. Like, listen, this is the guy to pick because everybody's saying that they made some great picks. I don't know if it will be fruitful for them because I don't know how they're going to use these picks, but they made some good picks.
Well, I'll say this. I should have been in the room one time. I should have been on the phone when they missed on Randy Moss, right?
Yeah.
Everybody in America should have heard me scream when I'm calling out the pick. So we missed that one. But I think that they had me connected to the when they were on the luxury liner on the boat when
Hmm.
they picked the CD Lamb, and I called that. People like, I was like, you gotta pick this guy. So Jerry through osmosis or ESPN or whatever we had going on at that time was working through it. So he got that one right. And this one too, I said before, defensive, they were trying to talk defense one year, and they came up to Columbus and watching Ezekiel Elliott. I said, you gotta pick this dude, bruh. And they picked him. So Caleb Downs actually fell in the draft. He was supposed to go as high as six, could have been at 10. They got him at 11. It's an amazing pick. He's a hardworking guy. He's going to make a difference because he can return the ball. He's such an athlete, and he has a nose for the ball. So it's an amazing pick for them. So they surprised me there. A couple other picks, yeah, then they went defense, which is really what they need to do. They surprised me there. So I was a little shocked that way. Another team, couple other teams that I thought did well, the Raiders. I told you before, when we talked and you were like, it's gonna be still they're gonna mess it up. I was like, this time they just need to follow the script. And I like the way that I told you before, some things changes they made in the off season. I really liked before. And then now you go into the draft and you do what you're supposed to do in regards to getting your quarterback. And I know you said, yeah, you thought the other quarterback was better, but they had to be politically correct. They need
Hmm.
to kind of clean up their image. So I know where they went and got the quarterback from IU. And then they went and helped themselves on defense, which they really need. So I hope Tom Brady is kind of on the back end a little bit. You won't give it all to him, but kind of helping them guide them a little bit better. So, because let's be real, when the Raiders are decent, it's exciting, right? Certain teams you want to be somewhat good. The Raiders are somewhat good, and you're like, okay, now they're starting to make everybody still, a lot of people still love the Raiders. And last but not least, on this point, how is it that these other teams are asleep and don't see some of these things happening? These players, talented players, and you let the Eagles slide in and make picks that you go, how the hell did nobody else see that? And I'm talking about the wide receiver Lemon from USC. So we know about Brown perhaps going to be traded to allegedly to New England or somewhere else, or they're going to move on from him. And Lemon was one of those guys that was making plays all year long. Now he wasn't on the high end because his team was not playoff ready, but he clearly was one of the top receivers. And then all of a sudden, out the blue, the Philadelphia Eagles select Lemon. And no one else saw this. So the guy is really good. Lemon is, and I think he's going to help him. But that old adage that you don't like to hear because it's run into the ground. The rich get richer. Philadelphia just got richer again, and they what they have already, and they continue to add up to and move forward and getting better. I think they're going to be really solid on that end, and I think that's what they do, and that's why they continue to win the division every year, even though other people try to say other things. They find ways to get it done because they continue to not just stockpile, but just improve on the talent that they already have.
Yeah, I was looking at the Notre Dame running backs. They had a tandem down there. It wasn't just Jeremiah Love. Of course, he goes to the Arizona Cardinals. I thought was a big pickup, but I was wondering why Seattle let go of their guy after he won the MVP of the Super Bowl, and they get Jadarian Price, who is a real good back out of Notre Dame, and they were able to pick him up to kind of fill that hole. And yeah, a lot of Ohio State players going pro. That might be pro U because there are a lot of players off the offensive defense going there. You had some players from Alabama going, some players from Miami. It seemed like a decent draft, and time will tell. We'll be seeing in the next few months what these guys do. One of the big stories is the quarterback that didn't get picked up. I guess he says his size is his disadvantage, and he's not a tall quarterback, and mostly short quarterbacks don't really um, do well. You see my little man in Arizona. Um, he tried, but and then you see my man in Carolina, who are shorter than the regular standard quarterbacks that they kind of put the height and weight and all that stuff. So I guess NFL teams are like, the day of the short quarterback, we're not going with this. We need a guy who can stand tall in the pocket and deliver the football. So he's the one that had to find mama.
Oh.
And they showed her, and I'm like, hey, keep the camera on her in one game they were playing. But I just saw a recent video of him and John Gruden, and Gruden was talking to him about, I guess he was representing himself as the agent, which sometimes doesn't fare well for you. And
Okay, there it is. Diego
yeah,
Pavia
that's him.
from Vanderbilt.
That's him. That's him.
Vanderbilt, yes, Vanderbilt.
I'm wondering if somebody's gonna give him a shot. Um, yeah, I'm wondering if somebody's gonna give him a shot. So
Yeah, and he probably will. When you think about signing as an undrafted free agent, somebody probably will pick him up.
because Deion Sanders' son, the cornerback, never got re-signed anywhere else, and he was out of the league after. I don't think he was. He might have been drafted. I'm not. I can't remember, but he signed on with Tampa Bay. He had an incident where he was
Yeah.
fighting on the field, and nobody else called him back. So, it's kind of tough when you see players who you think deserve to be in the NFL, and they are outside looking in. Any other draft news, man?
It would be interesting to see how these changes make a difference for
Mm-hmm.
these teams and will they follow through from that standpoint. The Jets did decent. They surprised me a little bit. I think my problem with the Jets, though, while they did make some decent moves, it's almost as if they were starting over again. A few years ago, you had these top-notch guys with Wilson, some other guys in there too, and you got rid of two of the three guys that you drafted. Now you have to start all over again because of what you messed up with, right? So it's almost you have to replace those guys. I'm like, hell, you could have kept them and kept growing or kept moving, but I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens, who plays well, like you mentioned about the running back for Kansas City. Will he be able to kind of come in and give them what they need, some stability after coming out being the MVP of the Super Bowl? There's a lot of what ifs and going on from that standpoint. So, what happens in San Francisco, right? Will we have Mike Evans kind of be able to kind of give them something, a push? Or what happens with the Rams? Will the Rams be able to come up with the Rams made a nice little pickup far as a backup quarterback as well. So there's a lot of questions. They're going to be in the league. Houston did real well. The Texans did on the defensive end. Is that going to be enough to sustain them as they move forward, trying to get back? And that's the beautiful thing about the offseason. You get to speculate, but then we start moving forward. We get to find out what's real and what works, and we get to critique. And people get all frustrated, but that's what the NFL counts on. So you keep watching. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot to go on now. A lot to go on.
yeah, because it's. I said this last year. I'm not a fan of any team. I can't do it anymore. NFL, and you can see the fans who get excited about this, and it's hard for me to get excited because I don't have a dog in the race now. And I just want to see people prove that they can make a team, prove that they can start, and prove that they're the great players that they were touted to be out of college. And so, I know the NFL is ecstatic about the excitement around folks going to the draft parties and all that other stuff. But, it's hard for me to get excited about it. But, it gets the fan bases all sparked up and ready to go. And when September comes, had the tickets bought, their NFL packages on their TVs bought, and they're ready to go again. So kudos to the NFL for the marketing and promotion of this. It's just that I can't get excited about it anymore. Let's go to boxing, bro. I know there's some big matches coming up that you want to tell the people about. We usually do a boxing show, but we're going to cut that today and talk about it during this particular show. This is a fight that we've been waiting for a long time, and it's finally here.
Yeah, long time coming. And of all places, it's in Japan. People like Japan. Look, I told people a long time ago. I remember when Manny Pacquiao first fought Marquez. One. And I didn't know who was even fighting. I think I was watching, I don't know if it was on HBO, it was on something I wasn't planning to watch. And these two little dudes started going at it, and it's probably one of the best fights I've ever seen. So ever since then, I pay attention to smaller weights, like for instance in the featherweight division and junior featherweight. For those that are not familiar, there's a title fight. There's a title fight between a gentleman by the name of Naoya Inoue, aka the Monster, Naoya Inoue, aka the Monster, versus Junto Nakatani. 12 rounds on May 2nd in Tokyo. Both of these guys are undefeated. Okay? They bring power. They fight strong. They have been knocking folks out. So for those that want to see knockouts and people that are that fight with reckless abandon, that don't care about anything, they're violent. Unfortunately, this is what it is. They are violent and they bring it. This is what you want to see. These are two of the best boxers slash fighters in pro boxing today. And finally, they're going to meet in Japan because of their history and their heritage. Meet in Japan. This might be the biggest fight ever in Japan.
Yeah.
So May 2nd, it probably will come on early because of the time difference. So it might be on like 5 o'clock on Saturday if you're in the East. But it's something that you want to watch because, and even if you missed the fight, go back and watch this fight. It's gonna be fireworks. It's gonna be something you go, I didn't know those little dudes could bang like that. It's something you want to see because I'm telling you right now, these are two of the best in the business. You would like a good fight, you want to see great boxing, you have to watch this fight. And you got it from me here first. I've been watching both of these guys for a while. I know people were talking about Bam Rodriguez and what he could do. He might get the winner. We ain't talking about all that. He should be fighting with him earlier because they getting a lot of hype, but that's just my personal opinion. This is a fight you need to see.
Yeah, 12 round, a super bantamweight championship, and you have both of them are 32 and 0. And Nagataki is 28 years old. The monster is 33. There's a 2-inch height advantage with Nakataki, but the reach, the monster has the reach. You have the monster who's orthodox. Nakataki is southpaw, and so 32 wins, 27 knockouts by the monsters, 24 by Nakataki, which is at 84% for the monster knockout percentage. 75 for Nagasaki.
Bruh,
Somebody gotta go.
some old got to go. Some old got to go.
Somebody gotta go. So Ice is correct. This is going to be. I know it's going to be on at 6 o'clock in the morning here. I'm going to figure out how to get up at 6 o'clock. You know, I'm a night owl and watch this live and catch this fight because this is going to be, I think, a instant classic and probably a candidate for the fight of the year.
Floyd, go on and fight that man. Take that money, man, and get this dude out the way. We can see a real fight,
I
so
ain't
you can
gonna
go back
argue
to
with
your
you today on this.
wait
I
a
ain't gonna
minute.
argue with you today on this.
Wait a minute. So you can go back to being the entertainer that you want to be now. Go and get this dude out the way.
Pay them bills, man. Pay them bills. I want to give my last second shot. I alluded to it earlier. I was sitting down with a couple of buddies of mine watching the NBA, and I probably wouldn't have watched that long if I wasn't with them. But one of the things that I grew up with, and maybe I sound like a OG with this, is that players don't talk to refs. That's the coach's job. But you see how the pros are every time they get touched on the arm, they get brushed up against, they miss a shot, they're complaining with the refs or to the refs, and they're not getting back on defense. They're too busy complaining, too busy kind of in the refs' face during the timeouts, all this other stuff. And that's going down to the college ranks, high school ranks. I'm hearing AAU coaches saying it's the same thing. They're trying to get their players not to act like pro players. Pros are supposed to be the example of how the amateurs are supposed to act. And I remember growing up watching Dr. J. When a confrontation would happen, there was one incident where he did choke Larry Bird, but when a confrontation happened, Dr. J would just go sit down and stay out of confrontation. He would go sit down. He would get himself away from it. Okay, and I guess I'm that old dude that likes that. These players now talk about they can play with guys in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and that they're much better. No, you're not. You couldn't take the fouls. You couldn't take coming down the lane and getting fouled hard. You couldn't do it. You'd be crying to the refs. You'd be limping going off the court, complaining that somebody hit you too hard. So when you guys come up with this argument of that you could play and your quality of game is better than the quality of game, and you can take the fouls and all that the guys in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I watched that era. No, you can't. You don't even come close to it. You got one?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. I'm kind of repeat something I said earlier. Kudos to Andrew Berry, the general manager for the Cleveland Browns. And Lord knows I have been one of his biggest critics after that past year when it's like, how are you in charge of running that franchise as a general manager and let some of this stuff go? And from the standpoint of certain people will not take responsibility when they mess up to we didn't know who drafted whom or whoever was responsible for this or who's going to take the fall for if it didn't work. Last year that quarterback room was a mess. And nobody wanted to stand up and say, it was me. No, it wasn't me, it was him. It was me, it was him. No, it was him. Nobody took on the task of being honest. This year, though, Andrew Berry, I think, really wants to keep his job. So, however, whatever, they let the two-time coach of the year walk away and went to Atlanta. needed to happen, right? You went out and got you a coach that really knows something a little bit about defense. You brought him in from Baltimore, and the first thing he did when he walked into the room and talking to Shador Sanders, he says, "We." I think, or he said, "I think no, it was Pittsburgh." I take that back. Not Baltimore, or Pittsburgh. He goes, "We tried to draft you." And he started laughing. Shador was like, "Yeah, I know," but he didn't want to go there because he didn't want to fall behind. It was Baltimore. He did not want to fall behind Lamar Jackson and sit the bench for so many years. So he's like, "Yeah, I know, but now we have you. We're going to get you right." But with all that being said, because of the selections that they made in the draft, along with the selection of the coach that they picked up as well, it's clear Andrew Berry is trying to make change in Cleveland when it comes to football. Trying to make change. Now the question is, will the chemistry develop? Will it work? The jury's still out. But it's not because he's not trying. This year, I think he's trying to keep his job. So he went about it the right way, getting the right people in the right places. It's time to move forward. So again, ladies and gentlemen, change is coming to Cleveland in the football arena, and they should improve more than they were, than they've been to be better than they were. And simply put, I don't know more of a loyal fan base in football. Now, you might say Pittsburgh, whatever. I'm going to say that's not the case. I'm going to say Cleveland because they ain't never won yet. And they still loyal. They still buying tickets. So with that being said, I hope they are better because the fan base deserves it. Can you imagine the Cleveland Browns winning and the dog pound barking and that city's on fire because they winning football games? You think you sick of the Philadelphia Eagle fans. Wait till Cleveland becomes more successful. You're going to hate them. But I love it for them because I remember when I was in Municipal Stadium on that sad day when they took the team, when they took the franchise, and they deserve better. So congratulations, Cleveland. I hope it works out. I'll be watching.
We will see. We will see.
Bring me like that. We will see. Been all that money on choir rehearsal. We will see.
We'll be back next week.